Turns out that there's actually a bit of coax plugs into the top of the tuner. Pull that out and you inject a signal right into that, so makes things kind of easy. Not using a capacitor in this case, so I don't think it's really needed. Just need to look at the circuitry. Well, that doesn't appear to be doing much of anything. Try different ranges. I'm doing a 45.75 megahertz video IF. There's a few other frequencies you can choose. Going through those different ranges now. Clearly, we're getting nothing at all. Which points us back to the detector diode. Unfortunately, these tubes are so close in between these cans, I can't get my socket extender down in there to try injecting a signal. But if I tip this thing on its side, I just might be able to, and we can try to get a signal right in before that detector stage, which would really clinch it as being the trouble spot. Not so fast. I'm injecting a signal now at the grid of the fourth IF tube. So it's the tube right before the detector diode, and it is doing something. So I'm cutting down the level of my injected signal down to nothing. It goes away, and I try going back a few stages here. So all these 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 identical tubes, basically very similar circuits. So let's go back. Go to the previous stage, and now we have nothing. Let me increase the signal level a little bit. No, still nothing. So maybe the problem. So there, got stuff. Here we don't. And if I go back further, and nothing here either. Can peek through the hole in the chassis there. And yep. So, could have a problem with the IF can, alright, in between these two tubes. Hopefully not, not the kind of thing you can easily find a replacement for. Lucky it could just be that some of these resistors are just so far off, it's biasing the tube into cutoff or something like that. Well, I definitely have continuity in that transformer, and I checked the resistors around there and found it's a 47 ohm that drifted up to 75, which I didn't think would be that big of an issue, but I replaced it, and now I've got signal going through. I'm already gone back several stages here. I'll go all the way to the first IF stage now, which I think is right here. Yeah, cool. So it probably is working all the way back to the tuner now. Let's kind of see something there. I think I want to work on the sync circuits next to tell the horizontals way off frequency. So you can kind of see. Looks like about 4 images on there. It occurred to me the hold control might not be working because things are just so far out of whack, it can't lock on. So what I'm doing now is there's a horizontal oscillator coil. I'm adjusting on the back of the set. It sets the free running frequency of the oscillator. Pretty darn close now. Let's change the test pattern. Looks like we're about there. Well, the control still isn't doing anything. Well, it actually does. Okay, now that I'm kind of locked on there, it's a subtle effect where the lines are moving a little bit left and right as I adjust this. This is a contrast control I'm adjusting. Brightness. Alright, so we got a signal going through the IF from one end to the other now, so I thought I'd hook the tuner back up. Still nothing. So I'm thinking that maybe although the IF is working, it's not working as well as it should, so I'm still curious about this diode. Maybe it's weak. So I want to get inside here and test it out. Luckily, before I got out the soldering iron, I realized that the diode is very readily accessible by just popping this top off. No fasteners, no soldering, no nothing. And here it is. I already took it out. Very early type of germanium. Curious if there's a screw on it. Well, I'll just jump right to it. I've already tried replacing it with a few different diodes. Made no difference whatsoever. So, it looks like I'm going to be diving into the tuner after all. I just had to undo 4 connections, take out a few screws, and popped right out. So, very carefully start exploring the insides of that. But I also want to take this opportunity to mention something about this chassis. I got a comment online. Someone had noticed how it seems to be kind of golden in color and corrosion free, and yeah, seen similar treatments on Japanese equipment. I'm not sure what this is. It's kind of like anodized or something. On the top I was cleaning it, and it almost thought that maybe it was nicotine or tar or something, kind of a build-up, because some of these tubes are really grungy too. But no, even under that, there's definitely kind of a golden tinge to it. So unlike the oxidized cadmium plating I'm so often used to seeing, they did some kind of different treatment on this, and whatever it is, it works out great, because no corrosion whatsoever. I carefully pried off the cover, popped out the steel springs, and took out the rotary tuner part. Here's what we're left with. So there's all the contacts that rub against these nubs, and 2 tube sockets, mixer oscillator, and RF amp, and associated components. So these contacts look to be pretty good. I'll clean them up. If any of them are making good contact, that would definitely be a problem. This one looks like it might be pushed down a little. I can kind of pry it back up this way. And I'll check these resistors. Pretty quickly I found some significant problems. One, we got a 470K resistor here. It's measuring 707. Well, that's pretty bad, but check this out. 100 kilo ohm resistor measures almost 900, or 9 times the value it's supposed to be. If I had to place a bet, I think that's a problem right there. I'll check a few of the coils, see if they're there's continuity, but for sure I'm going to replace those 2 resistors. Everything else seems to be pretty good. 3.3K here. Measuring 3.75. A little high, but not so much I'm concerned. One last one to check here. It's kind of buried. It's 1.5K. 1.9, a little high, but considering how hard it'd be to dig out from down in there, I think I'll just leave it alone. I mean, it's tempting to do more work because of how much hassle it is to take this out, but the more stuff you disturb, more likely it is you're going to have to align a tuner, which isn't so much fun. You can see all these trimmer caps up here and a trimmer slug there. It's certainly doable, but best if you can avoid it. Well, this was unexpected, and I wish I had caught it on camera. So, I have to replace some resistors in the tuner, reinstall the tuner, no improvement whatsoever. So I was fiddling around thinking maybe there was a problem with this connector. I was just trying crazy different things. I ended up just taking the tube shields off, wiggling tubes, and suddenly something appeared on the screen. Perhaps all this time it's just a weak tube, or I mean a weak connection somewhere. I'm not sure exactly which one it was. Let's see if I can get it to go out again. I mean, it seems, well, that would be a likely one right there. Except that I was cramming a signal through here, and I was getting a signal of sorts, so I'm thinking that it would have had to have been just one of the IF tubes. Is it this very last IF tube? Or a video amp, maybe? Hard to say. Anyways. Let me get this connector going back here and see if I can get a clearer picture. This video is kind of inverted.
First time that we've been together on a task, on a mission, on a date, in a long time. And it feels nice. No more sneaking around getting dogs behind Dave's back.
Now, I'm sure some of you are thinking, hey, the detector diode's backwards. No, actually, if I put it in the other way, things are really messed up. I lose sync and so on. And I specifically mentioned this problem of an inverted image in the troubleshooting section of the SAM service info, and they say it could be a problem with this, but it could also be a problem with the 6AU6 video amp and 12, I think it's BY7 video output tube, and to try swapping those out. And when I did, I noticed that when the tube is warming up for a while, you get a normal image and then it inverts. So I think there's something going on here, probably some resistors out of spec and biasing things wrong. Something else I realized is all this time when I've been injecting an IF signal directly and bypassing the tuner, and we got an image that looked right, it's because I was driving it much too hard. So I put in a really strong signal and crank up the contrast. Hey, it looks like regular crosshatch. But no, actually I should back off the contrast and put in a much weaker signal. So before I had this thing on high, actually I should go all the way down to low. And then that is actually a normal signal level, and we get the inverted image. So let me grab another video output tube, 12BY7. I'll pop this guy out and stick the other one in, and hopefully I can recreate what I saw earlier, that for a while get a normal image. Alright, tube's in. Should start seeing something as it warms up. And turn the brightness down. So there, as it warmed up, we just went through normal, and then we get to inverted. Pop the other tube back in. You can see that action again. So tube in. Normal, inverted. Alright, so I think that's where I need to focus. Somewhere in the circuit on these two. And notice I do have sound now too. So, when there was a bad connection in one of these tubes, how was this thing working at all? Well, let's see if we can reproduce that too. The signal was leaking through. I was putting in a really, really strong signal. Instead of low, I was all the way up on high, max level. So, even with one of these tubes, I'm guessing it was like a bad grid connection. signal is still getting through. So let's see if we can reproduce that. Try wiggling these tubes. It's hard to say which one though. Again, I swear it was something over here. In particular, I swapped this tube and this tube, which is a video amp and the keyed AGC tube. That's another thought I had, is that the AGC bus may have been really screwed up and was really reducing the gain. Again, you know, I did test all these tubes. They all tested good. And they seem to be seated properly. And the previous owner also had this problem where when he hooked it up, he could not get an image. So I guess the set was partially functioning earlier. So I don't know. I don't seem to be able to reproduce the problem now, other than to yank a tube out. So I guess it'll be one of those mysteries. I mean, my best guess is that it's one of these tubes somewhere in the IF had a dirty contact or a loose connection down below. So it's definitely worth me going over and touching up all the solder points and cleaning the sockets again. Just don't want this problem to reproduce once it's the set's back with its owner.